You might have heard about Agile project management or Agile software development. Maybe you're a college student who's been introduced to it in a class, a young analyst on an IT-focused client team, or maybe you're the client who just got recommended that switching to Agile is the way to adapt. But what exactly is Agile in software development project management? Where did it come from? And how can adopting Agile principles affect your business processes? Agile is a way of software development or project management that focuses on harnessing a customer's competitive advantage through regular process updates that promote sustainable development. It welcomes and adapts to changing requirements through cross-departmental collaboration, often between business people and software developers. Agile focuses on rapid turnaround through incremental planning, customer involvement, and continuous integration. Some examples of commonly used Agile systems are extreme programming, dynamic systems development method, feature-driven development, Scrum, and lean software development, amongst others. This might sound like a whole lot of gibberish, so to better understand it, let's take a step back and look at how Agile thinking came to be. Prior to Agile software development and project management, companies often manage software projects through waterfall thinking. Waterfall is structured and sequential and goes through 5 steps. It begins by defining the requirements of the project, continues into designing the steps of the project, and then implementing the design to clients. It then proceeds to testing to finally offer support to clients as needed. Waterfall and other traditional styles focus on optimizing development over a long period of time. As such, traditional IT organizations organize their people by process. In other words, teams are formed from multiple groups focused on completing a specific part of the project. Usually only the customer participates in the requirements and design phases, and then again during performance testing. Waterfall falls in the predictive category because the entire development activity is determined at the beginning of the software project. For example, requirements are always gathered and specified in the beginning of the project and tend to be recorded over exhaustive documentation. Although Waterfall was relatively successful for a number of years, increasingly complex and emerging technologies have made it difficult for teams to continue operating in this way. For one, since Waterfall is strictly sequential, it can be difficult to predict all of the requirements and challenges that accompany a software project before even designing and implementing a solution. Rather, requirements continuously evolve. Thus, in February of 2001, representatives of 17 software development organizations met to discuss new, lightweight methods to develop projects. And this was the start to Agile. Agile processes are more experience-based and empirical, rather than predictably structured like Waterfall. A basic example of an Agile development cycle begins with a requirement analysis that is used to plan, then develop, and design the solution. Solutions are tested and eventually released. Once this occurs, teams then reevaluate their requirements to accommodate changes to better fit a client's scope. The cycle, often called an iteration or sprint, then begins again, planning, designing, testing, implementing, and releasing accordingly. Agile requirements tend to be functional and informal, and are gathered throughout the life cycle of the process instead of strictly at the beginning. This kind of development process splits the work into smaller chunks so that early results can be shown faster. So how can Agile benefit your organization? Here are some of the top 6 benefits identified by experts. Number 1, there's greater opportunity to collaborate and self-organize within internal teams and with the client. 2, you can have quicker feedback by giving clients more hands-on access to projects. 3, short sprints or iterations mean that requirements or scope changes won't set a project back by months. Next, you might see increased employee motivation as they each take a more active role in project development and implementation. By focusing on customer value and having customer input throughout the process, the final project will likely better fit the needs of your client, leading to number 5, which is increased user satisfaction. And lastly, by shortening the lifespan of the project and adapting to changing requirements, you might lower costs for your organization overall. So in summation, Agile projects have the opportunity to lead to increased process efficiency and customer satisfaction. Of course, as with any management or development change, there are some inevitable challenges that cannot be ignored. Here are some of the top 4. The first one is integration with standard processes, tools, and techniques. Merging Agile lightweight processes with standard industrial systems can prove challenging if software and hardware are not up to date. Furthermore, it leads into our second challenge, which is change management. Especially for traditional employees, it can prove exceedingly difficult to change and inspire the attitudes toward adopting a new way of thinking. Expect resistance to change from any level of your organization. The third challenge is implementing test automation. Implementation of self-organized, collocated teams might lead to unclear roles and responsibilities. It will take some time to reorganize your people to fill these new roles and collaborate with other project management leaders. And lastly, number 4 is accessibility to expert and training. Stakeholders often lack knowledge on Agile methodologies, but training is absolutely crucial to the new acceptance of your system. So since Agile project management and development is relatively new to the world of business, there are differing opinions on how to mitigate some of these challenges. Nonetheless, most experts agree that serious preparation is needed up front. By conducting a significant analysis of existing and proposed processes, teams will be more prepared to consider the needs and wants of their employees and organization. However, since implementing Agile principles into business processes will likely affect the daily lives of many employees, it is important to evaluate which approaches will be best for your organization. Now, this is where best practice research differs. For leaders of larger organizations, it is recommended they pay specific attention on how teams are synchronizing within and without of the organization. Depending on team size, training and socializing of Agile principles will likely take several rounds. On the other hand, smaller organizations might have the opportunity to have all levels of their organization involved in how to best roll out Agile principles to their organization. Some experts say that large organizations have more success implementing Agile because of the quick collaborative nature of teams that their traditional teams did not previously have. Yet, others argue that a smaller organization will more quickly understand Agile principles since they have more open face time with high-level management and can ask questions regularly. Overall, though, most experts agree that, regardless of your organization's size, it is important to share knowledge across all levels of experience and throughout your hierarchy to ensure the sustainability of your Agile team and minimize some adverse reactions from implementing a new system. Continuous learning and evaluating risks are equally as important and necessary for adapting to the newer ways of management and development. So there you have it, a very brief overview and introduction to Agile systems and project management. If you're a student, a new analyst, or client considering learning more or switching to Agile, remember the biggest differences between waterfall and Agile approaches. In a traditional development paradigm, approaches are predictive. Management often centralizes decisions. There is a fixed structure, more limited communication with the team, and exhausted documentation. In contrast, thinking Agile is more adaptive. Management is led by objectives. Emerging structures dictate organizational style. Teams are collaborative and value shared learning. And there is a high degree of flexibility with regards to documentation. There's so much more to learn about Agile. Each Agile system I mentioned in the beginning, like Scrum, Lean Systems, XP, and more, each have their own set of principles and frameworks that are more helpful to certain organizations. I personally look forward to seeing how organizations using Agile long-term might compare to their traditionally minded counterparts. So that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please leave a comment, like, or share.